Welcome everyone to today's session of the ongoing Leadership Talk series from nasscom's Design and Engineering Summit that was held in Bengaluru on the 12th and 13th of October this year. Our theme for today is really apt for the current times of uncertainty that the Indian tech industry is faced with. To deliver on enhanced client expectations, but at superior project margins. So we will talk about harnessing digitalization and automation for higher project margins in today's session. And who better to help us understand, uncover, and position the criticality of technology, particularly digital technology, in project management, than the founder and CEO of Product Dossier, Sandeep Kumar. Sandeep, a warm welcome and gratitude for taking time for this important discussion today.
Thank you, Namita. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. But before we get into the discussion, let me take a few moments and introduce Product Dossier and Sandeep's journey with this founding. Product Dossier was created by a group of global corporate professionals, including Sandeep, who saw a distinct white space being created as a result of businesses transforming their way of operations to a project-led approach. Product Dossier was founded in December 2005 with the single focus on building enterprise solutions for operational excellence to therefore build a digital-led performance culture in the global IT and ITES companies. Today, Product Dossier's professional service automation, PSA, category of solutions deliver an end-to-end solution for customers in IT and specialized industries across 27 plus countries globally from its offices in India and the US. Sandeep himself brings in more than 3 decades of professional experience in the software industry, both as an end user of technology as well as a provider of technology now. His expertise lies in professional services automation, project and portfolio management, and operational excellence in IT, ITES companies. Before founding Product Dossier, Sandeep had worked with Geometric Software, which is now part of HCL, and Tata Research Center. He completed his Masters of Engineering from the very prestigious Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Sandeep, once again, a very warm welcome. And I would like to now get started with our conversation on this really important topic. And I'll start with a very, very foundational question. Typically, when IT services companies do projects of the scale that they do, they deploy multiple levers to ensure delivery of superior project margins. And that is also very, very correlated with superior customer expectations as well as client performance delivery. In today's times, however, many of these levers are under stress. For instance, competitive pricing as a result of vendor consolidation because the demand is relatively tepid. Help us understand what are some of these foundational levers and how do you see the challenges to margins today?
Thanks, Namita, once again for that kind introduction. And yeah, absolutely, you are right that we are living in a very uncertain times, and there is, companies are under tremendous pressure to grow revenues and at the same time the profitability. So we have to understand that profitability or project margins are not just result of one thing, right? There is a complete project life cycle, starting with the upstream process like estimation, and then coming to execution of the project and downstream processes like billing and collection. So all of these things are pretty much involved in creating a more profitable organization. So if I have to sort of put them in a sequence, I would say estimations, resource availability, I would say, the project management is another one. And then there is basically the billing, the cost control, and, maybe a couple of more, right? So let me start sort of giving more into the details of each one of them. So, our audience also understands that what does it mean when I say estimation. So for example, today, if I don't do the right estimation, and what I mean by right estimation is if my estimations are too heavy or too less, both are bad for the business, because if I make them too less cost, then I will not be profitable, and if I make it too heavy, then I won't get the business. So both are bad for the business. Now, today, what organizations are doing is they have Excel spreadsheets, and which everybody who is doing estimations, they are doing it in their own fashion. There are no standardized cost masters, and sometimes they don't even have the list of all the cost categories they should take. So you will end up leaving a couple of them, and then while at the time of selling, it looks like I have 40% margin, but by the time it gets executed, you are already down to even 20 or even less than that, right? So estimation is a very important thing, and we should have a good framework so that my proposals are more winnable and my as executed margin is equal to my as sold margin. So that is one lever which I think now organizations are understanding it's important. The second one I would come to is the resources, which is the most valuable asset of any ITS company. Now, what happens is there are two problems in this resources. One is, how do I make all the people available billable, right? That's the like a dream, but obviously there is a bench and all those things. The bigger problem what I see in this resources thing is, on one hand we have projects where we are suffering billing losses. Billing loss, when I say, what it means is that you've got the purchase orders from the customer, but you don't have the resources, right? So if you don't have the resources, you can't bill to the customer, and that affects both my revenue and profitability. On the other hand, we have a bench which is sometimes could be 15-17% of my all my resources, and which are looking for projects. But the problem is this matchmaking is not happening in real time. And by the time we realize, a month or two are gone and we lose the opportunity. So that is one problem in resources. So how do I optimize my resource utilization? And the second problem is, which is directly impacting my profitability, is, am I allocating the right people to the right projects? So for example, if I allocate very expensive people to low bill rate projects, right? So my profitability is going to come down. My people are not going to be satisfied because they are put on low skill projects. And even my customer, I mean, he may be happy, but I am not profitable. On the other hand, if I put a low skill person into a sort of a high skill requirement, then my customer is going to be unhappy, right? So both are bad. So I think this is another very, very important thing which organizations have to get it right. So that is my second lever. The third one is, again, the project management, right? So if this is not done right, then your profitability can really go for a toss. So when I say project management, on time delivery, risk reviews, which can come back and or put all my profitability into jeopardy if not done right. And there are a host of governance and host of other things which can impact my profitability again. So that is a point number third. The fourth and the fifth point I would put again on the cost control. And again, if I have a certain budget, today what is happening is projects are not managed with a controlled budget. Basically, because the people who are managing resources and other things, they are not really looking at what is my budget and what kind of resources I'm taking against it. So there is no sort of cost control, and because of which some projects are very resource heavy and then their profitability goes down. So this is another very important aspect. The fifth one I would say is also very, very important, is the revenue leakages. Today, what is happening is that our revenues are based on most of the projects in India, IT industries, like maybe T&M, right? Time and material. And for this, the timesheets are very, very critical. So if I don't comply my timesheets to 100%, I may end up in revenue leakages. And then there are a lot of rules with the customer. Sometimes customer pay for 2 holidays in a month. So there are a lot of business rules, which today people are calculating manually. not only it takes a lot of time, it ends up in those revenue leakages, and which certainly, impact your top line and bottom line. So I would say these are, few levers. If not done right, this will impact my organization revenue, my profitability, and of course, project level profitability.
Fantastic. I think you've explained to us in the simplistic terms as to what those fundamental 4 or 5 factors are and what needs to be controlled. And I think today, if we put this into perspective, Sandeep, it becomes really important because we saw, as you rightly mentioned, estimation. We saw things swing between last year and this year dramatically. From 2021, 22, saw a surge in digital transformation budgets, projects, a lot of customers putting in money, ID services companies really struggling to get that talent on board, and their talent pyramid, sort of bloating beyond, proportions probably, that they would have seen in at least the last 10 years or so. But now, the last 6 months, we've seen so much of belt tightening because, the demand suddenly became tepid. Again, estimations of what would the client spend kind of swung dramatically, not probably because this was something that, our industry could have controlled, but because of the macros. But it does have an impact on the industry. You spoke about estimation, resource utilization, the aspect of project management, profitability, and plugging in the revenue leakages. All of these 5 factors, I believe, come together in a very, very holistic way to help companies get to the right decision making on what project financials, what resources to be put, and how to manage the entire portfolio of projects as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at historically, right, there has not been much focus on this holistic view of financials, resources, and project management. Largely, people have been focused on project management from an engineering point of view, like the Jiras and Microsoft projects of the world. Those have been their tools to sort of manage it. Companies have not looked at, from a holistic point of view, and more importantly, from a project financials point of view. The project revenue, the profitability were known only to few people in the company. And those are the people who are really not closer to the project. They were not controlling anything, but on Excel sheets, they were controlling everything. So I think there is a need for organization to understand that unless and until you empower your people, you make every project manager the CEO of your company, right? Things are not going to happen. And more importantly, you have to, I'll tell you that what are the problems, I spoke about the levers. What are the other problems companies are sort of facing? So first thing companies are facing is very important is the resource forecast. Today they don't have a future 3 months 6 months resource forecast of their resource requirements, and these resource requirements can come from 2 places. One is from their existing projects for which they have got the order, right? The other place where the forecast comes from is their pipeline, the opportunities which they are going to win over the next 6 months. Now they don't have a consolidated real-time view of this data. And as a result, what happens when they get the order, when they get the business, basically they don't have resources to deploy. And as a result, they suffer, that what we call as a business loss or revenue loss. So I think what they need to do is every resource manager a forecast which they can act on. So, they are proactively working on it. Second thing today, what is very critical is the DSO part, the billing part. This billing is today, the DSO could be as high as 70, 80, 90 days in the organization. And which you can imagine, if it's even say $100 million company, and if there is a DSO of 70, 80 days, then we are talking a lot of money on the table. And not only just the DSO is high, but the process of invoicing itself is so difficult that if I divide the DSO into pre-build and post-build, just to get the right invoice to the customer, it takes about 10 to 20 days, sometimes even more, right? So they have this issue. The third issue today, most organizations is facing is at the time of billing, they realize they don't have the valid purchase order from the customer, right? So, and then on the 30th of every month, then they scramble for the renewal purchase order, etc. So imagine those people are not even aware that they are running their projects without the valid PO. And this delays their invoicing, increased DSO, and all those things. So that is another problem. Today, every CEO wants to close their books every month within the first 5 days of the next month, right? But they are unable to do so. CEO doesn't get on real-time basis what is my unbilled revenue. They don't know that. Their revenue recognition, another issue. So, and why there is another problem in the industry is that this unbilled revenue, because customers sometimes have to approve the timesheet, etc., etc., and this takes time. So this is another challenge companies are facing. So I would say unless and until an organization understands that these three things, they are interconnected, and you have to develop processes and systems where each one of this leg, if there are three legs of this system, they are feeding to each other and they are working in most optimized manner, and then only organization can hope for enhanced revenue and profitability. And it's not organization's fault, I think. There have not been much, so to say, in the market, this kind of education, while people knew it, but there were no tools and technologies to sort of support that sort of initiative. But I would think it's extremely important that organization understand the power of this integrated systems and processes.
Makes sense. Absolutely wonderful that you brought out those aspects. One of some tools still being available. So we've seen a plethora of tools, Sandeep, that have come up, and you rightly mentioned that what is missing is the integrated perspective. I think you also kind of alluded to something which is the way teams currently work. They are so habituated to the way they work, maybe physically writing those details down, or at max using an Excel, or maybe even using a Microsoft Jira for a very, very focused purpose. But then the holistic perspective is missing. Probably who actually manages that holistic perspective might something that has not been thought through in the organization. Who owns it? Who controls it? Who is accountable for it? And it's clearly imaginable that technology which can enable a single source of truth, a single view across the board, could definitely help. Could throw some light on what kind of technologies can help, and what will that scenario, or does that scenario look like when there's a single source of truth, there is real-time data? What does this really do to the project delivery efficiencies?
Absolutely, and I think you are just articulating it right. What people have done, what organizations have done is, they have come based off what their peers are doing, what is being done in the neighborhood. So they pick up things from there, and then another thing, what they're doing, wherever they find the problem, but there are no sort of solutions available, they end up doing something on their own and they keep growing it. And finally, it does not scale, right? So it does you more harm than good in the medium or long run. So if you look at IT services businesses, right? So there is a customer facing part where you are tracking all the new opportunities and all. So I think for that there is a breed of software called CRM, where Salesforce and all, so they are pretty much standardized now, and most companies are using one or the other CRM for tracking their opportunities. Then on the right hand side, so if I call it as a left hand side, customer facing, and on the right hand side, there are accounting softwares or the ERP, which is basically creating their P&L and balance sheets and all. So these are more financial transactions. So that is also quite standardized, and people have adopted depending upon the size, right from Tally, QuickBooks, or even more sophisticated systems like SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, etc. So these two pieces, left and right, is quite established, and I think people have adopted it. This is what I have seen. What is missing in between these two, where they are actually executing their projects, right from estimation to getting the SOW, to set up the project, executing the project, closing the project, right? So this piece is coming, and this is where the PSA line of category of software, which is professional services automation, which can digitize and automate your entire O2C process, which is like opportunity to order and then order to cash. And more importantly, it can integrate with the left and it can integrate with the right, giving you a single version of truth, which you also mentioned. Now, this PSA is basically what it does is it gives you an integrated view of your financials, your resources, and your project delivery, right? And it has the capability to integrate with any other system, including CRM, ERP. And this gives you all the workflows where you can define your processes and all those things, right? And what it also does to you is not only sort of it gives you that what you can do today, it also helps you to analyze your own data, right, and make actionable insights out of it. And this is a repetitive process where your organization also grows. So this is, I feel, a very good category of software which is coming in the market, and it can really help digitize your O2C process. Beyond that, what I have also seen in ITS companies, that many times they have to use the customer system for which they are working to manage their delivery, like Jira and all. Sometimes customer own the Jira or any other software, and the people who are working on that customer project have to sort of work with them on their Jira. So for those also, this PSA, or like for instance our PSA at least, we can integrate with the those systems, so that there is one single version of truth. Even we can fetch data from the customer systems via Excel import or anything. So from my company perspective, all my key data is in one place, right? And this gives a lot of benefits to the organization. First of all, what it does to you is all these things you are doing not on an ad hoc basis. These are really sustainable and create exponential value. So I would say, and another good thing about this thing is you don't have to do all of this in one go. You can go at your own pace, so that you also end up your change management in the organization is easier, because it's your organization is not just about the tools and technologies, right? It's about people. If you have 1,000, 10,000 people, you have to do proper change management. And you remember what, apart from giving all the benefits that technology can give, the most important benefit what technology is also giving you, or PSA is giving you, is the culture part, right? So that is a softer aspect, but it does that to you. So that is my take on what tools and technologies are sort of emerging in the market.
Very interesting, Sandeep, that you brought out this point, which I would like you to delve a little bit deeper on, which is the whole culture part. And that can become easily, difficult by exponential proportions as team sizes grow up and the portfolio grows. So how do you think culture can be improved with the use of professional services automation software that kind of brings in, and integrates the upstream and the downstream view? What does it really do, to change the way people operate?
Yeah, absolutely. A great question, and one of my favorite too. Uh, we all know, right? Every organization, every family, everybody in the world, whatever, even our own families, we want to build good culture. right? Because we think whatever we build, it will be carried forward. And the same thing in organization. You go to any organization, they have a wall where they have put their values and all those things because they want to inculcate, hoping that this will become my culture and everybody will follow that. So I think there can be no better example than how technology is helping building that culture. And when you have that culture, for I'll give you one example. Like for example, today only 5 people in the organization may know why TNM project is different than the fixed price projects and all those things. But when you empower your people and they set up the project like that, right from the beginning, they understand what is the difference between TNM and fixed price, why it is important to fill timesheets, right? Today, timesheet, if you tell somebody, I want you have to fill timesheet, people take offense about it. People don't like timesheets, but they don't understand that every dollar of revenue company is earning because of this. So, but nobody is teaching them that why timesheets are important. So, my take on this is when you bring in technology and when the technology is asking you to do things in the right manner, to do proper reviews, to do proper governance, to have proper quality metrics, right? And all these things by way of implementing technology, this does not become a choice for every individual, right? This is a process and you have to do it. And then what happens if you have 1,000 people, when you deploy it, it may be little resistance because these people are not used to doing things like this. So there may be initial resistance, but once they end up doing it, the next 1,000 who are going to come into the organization, they will just follow this culture without any resistance. And when 2,000 people, imagine just a simple thing, instead of one CEO, if you have 2,000 people CEOs of their own projects, imagine what can happen. So it's the only the mindset, right? Today we tell our project managers, look, don't worry about financials. You don't need to know anything about P&L profitability. Just go do the engineering deliverable. Instead, if my narrative is, look, you are the CEO of the project. Your job is revenue, profitability, and customer satisfaction. Done. Just look at the way that person will start thinking from tomorrow because his basically mandate has changed. And I think we have seen in our organization, our customers, where we are doing it, their level of maturity of their processes, and most importantly, their thought process, the level, the quality of their conversations have gone a few meters up, right? Every 6 months, they are talking a very different level, and which is impacted in their growth as well as their profitability. So I would say we should, culture is a very, very powerful thing, and technology is going to help that to make it sustainable and exponential value creation.
Very, very interesting, Sandeep. And I'm kind of, as you were talking, I was thinking and picking aspects of what you said. You said, technology is an enabler here, right? You also mentioned how, this is a mindset shift. And at the end of the day, the early adopters kind of set that example for the followers. I think we are in that time, right? Since the beginning of this year, we've seen a major disruption in the form of ChatGPT. And everybody is now assuming that everything fixed about the TNM model or the fixed price contract model will get disrupted because here is the co-pilot. Productivities will go off the roof because there's a co-pilot. We will change the way we do project deliveries. The project timelines might shrink, and a lot of resources and the way they are used and what they do could stand disrupted in a good way, definitely, because once this all plays out very well, we are looking forward to a lot more scope, many more projects, much better work, right, for the people in the tech industry. But for now, we are in that phase where we are still figuring out what AI would do to how projects are going to be delivered. Your thoughts, are you really looking at AI, particularly generative AI, and the promise that it shows as really impacting the way project deliveries happen today? or do you think we are still far out from understanding how this will pan out?
Yeah, good question again. Gen AI is like now part of our lives, right? It's not going to go away. It is only going to become more and more, but probably more realistic than the initial hype. So that is the first point I want to make. Now, can we use JI in our general project delivery or anything? The answer is clearly yes. I feel today, what we have to do as engineers and this thing, we have to use a lot of common sense in using the chat GPT or Gen AI in general to integrate with what we are doing, right? It has to become a part of our way of working, way of life. And we have to, I feel, instead of climbing a very big mountain, there are a lot of these small hills which we can cover and which can produce together a lot of benefits in our day-to-day work. And that is where, like for example, I will give you, uh, like if I'm doing a project, right? So today I can actually ask Chat GPT, look, this is my risk in the project. What is my mitigation plan? So, Chat GPT can suggest, this is not a rocket science. I mean, what I was today until now, I was using my own wisdom or my own experience. Now I can leverage the collective wisdom of thousands and thousands of data models available. So that is one example. Second, another example I can give you is when we are getting the customer contract. Today I have to digitize everything, but here now there are large language models available which can be trained on my purchase orders or SOW. And when I get a new one, this can automatically read out every field I need, and this can improve productivity. And these examples I'm telling you, we are already doing in our software. So these are, and they are working. So there are a bunch of other examples. So I would say that in the immediate run, we have to think in a very commonsensical way. What are the little wins I can get, and it can impact my hundreds of users out there, right? And then keep building on. That is one thing. And on the another thing is, like I said, the large mountain. Where can we build our own LLM for each enterprise? And then they can ask chat. Today we are asking Chat GPT, so we will have our own localized Chat GPT which will be able to answer everything in our context, in our data. So because security is another very important thing, and we are still, these are early days, because a lot of this data I would want to retain in my four walls and not share, because there is a lot of financial and all other data. So I think Gen AI is important, and we just have to use a lot of common sense for the short wins, and then keep building on the larger one. So that would be my take.
Very interesting, very interesting. And I think, very, very practical advice from you, Sandeep, on that perspective, that there is a lot more room for the technology to evolve, but it certainly is a promising technology when it comes to looking at its utilization on the project productivity and delivery gains perspective. Now, one final word from you, Sandeep, because this has been a fantastic conversation. If you were to kind of summarize this, look at today's scenario of where the tech industry is and the kind of competitive pressures it is in, the macro pressures there, what would be your advice for the industry when it comes to managing towards sustainable project margin deliveries? How should organizations be looking at across the spectrum, from projects to portfolios to projects, programs, to entire portfolio management? Your 2 cents on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think uh, you have to put your own house in order, right? So you have to, that is the only way to scale. That is the only way to scale. And you need to have the best of breed in, like I said, the customer facing, the CRM and the ERP and the PSA, which is now becoming a de facto standard for professional services industry. So I think wherever you are in your journey at the moment, look at that. This is the IT landscape you would like to have starting today, maybe next few years. And depending upon what your situation, what is your growth plan and all those things, you have to basically make a blueprint that today I am here, I want to go there, and then what are my 5 or 6 milestones over the next few years. So that blueprint is very important, and it is going to give you the the ROI. That is number one in terms of your thought process, because it takes a lot to even internally mentally make up your mind that this is what you want to do. And you can look at your peers or things around you, you will find a lot of success around. The second thing is, in this this is not like buying a soap, right? You buy it, you don't like it, throw it. It is more like a marriage, where you just can't take U-turns every now and then. That won't work. That will actually put you more behind than forward. So uh, take it like a marriage. You have to have get it right. So you need to work with a partner who is not dealing with you on a transactional basis, who is more like a strategic partnership with you. That is number one. That mindset is important. If I am always thinking about a transactional relation with my customer, I won't go very far, right? Every time you speak to me, I'll say, do you have the budget? If you don't have the budget, don't waste my time. I mean, so we don't want to get into those kind of partners. And the second thing, very important, is this whole thing is kind of evolving, right? So one way is for you to discover everything, by yourself, and which will take a lot of time, and you will have to reiterate. And there is another way is that somebody who has done it, been there, right, a few times. There is a wealth of knowledge out there. So partner with those kind of people, where you get it sort of right first time itself. You don't have to iterate, waste your money and time. So that is the second thing. And I would say focus on your people, the change management, right? People inherently want to involve in progress. So take them along, do the right change management, and put the best people in this transformation. Normally, another thing I've seen in the industry is they put their people, who are not sort of doing the best things, they put them on this sort of initiative. So that is not the right approach. It's like putting your bench people on this transformation. That is not the right approach. Put your best people in this, and start experiencing success, small success. This will build momentum, and then you will go very far, and you will end up building that culture I spoke about. A lot of our customers have seen this journey. I have seen with them. They started small, then they keep on building, and today there is a day most of our customers, it has become a mission critical. It's become a way of life. Our servers cannot be down for more than 30 seconds. I do have to wake up middle of the night, and my name is, our company name is there in the management room, saying this is a risk. Because why it is a risk? In a positive manner, because we are creating value. So anything which creates value, you are always more concerned about it. So I would say, if you do these things like the way I said, 1 2 3, you are going to get there.
Fantastic roadmap blueprinting for our listeners, Sandeep. On that note, I would like to wrap up today's conversation. One key term that I would leave our viewers with: this is not a short-term solution. This is a long-term marriage. It requires sustainable effort. It requires effort by teams across the board. This is something that is definitely critical. There is no second way about it. Wonderful talking to you, Sandeep. Thank you for sharing those enriching insights. And I would like to thank all our viewers and listeners. This is, once again, coming from NASSCOM Design and Engineering Summit's Leadership Talk Sessions. Thank you for listening to us today.
Thanks, Namita. You've been a great host, and thank you so much.
Thank you.